Report. I'm Jerome Paul Sonka, and thank you for joining us. We're coming to you live from plot 42 Nile Avenue, opposite Garden City, and here to make sure that we drive your business. Thank you for joining in, and let's kickstart it off with our very fast From the News hour. Kickstarting it off, we start with the Bank of Uganda's 7th Annual Supplier Conference. This particular one was aimed at sensitizing the potential and existing suppliers on sustainable supply chains. The Deputy Governor, Bank of Uganda, Michael Atigiego, has requested the suppliers to prioritize sustainable business practices through influencing product designs, considering the best practices and digital options across the entire supply chains. He made the remarks during the 7th Annual Supplier Conference that was held in Kampala today. Pedison Mumbere has more.
Bank of Uganda today organized the 7th Annual Supplier Conference aimed at sensitizing potential and existing suppliers on sustainable supply chain. In his remarks, Michael Atigiego, the Deputy Governor, Bank of Uganda, requested suppliers to prioritize sustainable business practices by influencing product designs, considering best practices and digital options across their supply chains.
Minded suppliers. So these are suppliers who are environmentally conscious, socially conscious, and have got in place governance structures to support these systems, in addition to trying to move to digitally driven systems. I therefore urge our suppliers to consider best practices, including through peer learning, on the adoption of the ESG principles, and also to consider moving to digital way of doing things if we have to be sustainable for value chains.
He notes that as the world was grappling with repairing and restoring global supply chains from the pandemic-related disruptions, the Russia-Ukraine conflict threw a spanner in the works, causing shortages in the supply of food and oil products, thereby spiking inflationary pressures.
Having lived through that very serious COVID-19 crisis period for over 2 years, the widespread availability of vaccines, treatments, and the SOPs is enabling the world to embark on some kind of resumption to normalcy. However, it might be unrealistic to expect a return to the pre-pandemic world. So, this conference, therefore, is intended to explore ways and means of surviving and thriving in a new norm that demands the evolution of business processes, operations, and models for the current and future crises. As the world was grappling with the repairing and restoration of global supply chains from the pandemic-related disruptions, the Russia-Ukraine conflict threw in a spanner in the works, further worsening the situation in terms of uncertainties.
The BOU responded to the supply chain disruptions in two broad ways, which include policy response based on the core mandate and central bank rate at its lowest ever to make it easier for SFIs to offer lower lending rates.
Let me continue with the COVID story and how it relates to supply chains. One of the things COVID taught us was what is important and what is not. One of the defining things that came out was the concept of essential to existence. We learned what is a must to live with when you've been pushed against the wall, what can you leave for another day? And we even began to rearrange our understanding of professions, sectors, and services. It must have been strange for all of us to see the law society and the legal fraternity, I don't know whether there is any of them here, being very unhappy that they were given a very small number of slots during the lockdown.
Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV.
Thank you, Pedison Mumbere. Let's talk RWANDAIR. as we all have got the details here, all the news that the plane, which was the plane that was taking off at the Entebbe International Airport, skid off the runway. That was a few hours back, that is yesterday. And according to the details coming in from there, the RWANDAIR passenger plane with about 60 people on board skid off the runway while landing at the Entebbe International Airport early yesterday. Vianney Luja, the manager public affairs at the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, has disclosed the current situation at the airport. Let's have the details with Naomi Mutumba.
The RWANDAIR flight from Nairobi overshot the runway as it was landing at 5:31 a.m. as a result of bad weather on Wednesday. All passengers and flight crew deplaned safely with no reported injuries. According to Uganda Civil Aviation Authority spokesperson Vianney Luja, he says the cause of the incident is still under investigation.
At around 5:31 a.m., RWANDAIR's flight, an aircraft CRJ-9, was landing at Entebbe International Airport. Unfortunately, the aircraft veered off the runway on landing. It was at a time when the weather was not the best, but the actual cause of the incident will be fully investigated, and we shall get a comprehensive report that will be able to tell the exact cause of the incident. As of now, it is difficult to speculate on what may have caused it.
This is not the first time a plane skidded off the runway. On January 2019, an Ethiopian Airlines carrying 139 people skidded off the runway when it landed at 12:41 a.m., as he explains.
Of this nature happen world over. This is not the first of its nature. Aircraft can veer off the runway, and this has happened in many countries and at many airports across the world. Specifically at Entebbe, the last time we had a similar incident was in January 2019, when an Ethiopian Airlines aircraft overshot the runway. This is a different incident from this one. This particular one veered off, the other one overshot the runway.
Because work was disrupted, airplane companies were inconvenienced mostly in terms of money, which Vianney says it's hard to predict how much was lost. However, an alternative route was considered for lighter planes.
To evaluate the financial impact at this point, it requires that a team sits down and looks at exactly what may have been impacted in terms of the flights that were supposed to have taken place and did not take place. But at an individual basis, of course, there was a lot of disruption and inconvenience for passengers who were scheduled to depart and those who were scheduled to come in. Because when this happened, we issued a NOTAM, which is a notice to airmen. It is a common industry practice that when you get an emergency of this nature, you communicate to air operators that were scheduled to land or take off from your airport. What happened is we have two runways at Entebbe International Airport. This incident happened on the main runway, 1735, which we mainly use for large commercial carriers. We have a second alternate runway, 1230, but that particular one is a little bit shorter and it is mainly used for smaller and lighter aircraft. So we continued operations on that alternate runway, mainly for smaller and lighter aircraft, but the big carriers were not able to take off or land from morning till around 5 p.m.
Vianney has revealed that as per now, the airport is open and back to normal. He further advised the passengers to get in touch with their airlines to be rescheduled.
Only fully reopened in the morning between 2 and 3 a.m. As I speak now, operations are fully ongoing. Flights are departing and arriving without any interruptions. All the scheduled flights are now able to take place. However, because several flights were scheduled yesterday and did not take place, I can take an example of an airline like Kenya Airways, which has 5 to 6 flights a day. So many of those passengers on the different flights did not travel. So we now request them to get in touch with their airline and work out an arrangement for a schedule. It does not mean that because you did not go yesterday, you are automatically going to go on the first flight today, because some airlines have several flights. So it's important that passengers communicate with their airlines and agree on the reschedule. And we have also encouraged airlines to do that So they're already communicating to their passengers and agreeing on that schedule. So that
Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24, Prime Edition.
Moving on, the Ministry of East African Community Affairs has held the National Dialogue for Private Sector, Civil Society and other interest groups under the theme Towards a Post-COVID-19 Recovery for Socio-Economic Transformation. This is the fourth of this kind after 3 forums have been organized since the adoption of the Consultative Dialogue Framework on 26 November 2012. The dialogue was officiated by the first Deputy Prime Minister to Uganda, who also doubles as the Minister for the East African Community Affairs, Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga. Let's have the details of this report.
The adoption of the Consultative Dialogue Framework is to create an opportunity to widen and deepen East African community integration process. During the Consultative Dialogue today, the Minister of East African Community Affairs said that the theme for the dialogue resonates with the East African Community Campaign of Free Trade Area.
It's with the ESC campaign on free movement of goods, persons, workers, services, labor, also with the right of establishment and the right of residence.
She says the Forum of the East African Community has scaled up the level of interaction between dialogue parties.
ESC dialogue has since adoption scaled up the level of interaction, synergy and collaboration between the dialogue parties themselves and government. The Forum has provided a very big opportunity of the private sector, civil society, and other groups to be heard and achieve the integration pace and discretion. Just this week, I was very, very humbled. I had a session of some 2 hours with the Private Sector Foundation, and they gave me feedback which I could not find in the treaty or in the work at the community.
Dina Asimwe, a stakeholder from East African Sub-Region Support Initiative for Advancement of Women, says traders at the borders of Uganda and Tanzania have not exported their maize to Tanzania.
Since around November, December 2021, traders have not been able to take their maize into Tanzania. We've tried to follow up this issue with different agencies at the borders, but without any clear information coming from the government of Tanzania as to the cause of this problem.
She therefore asked the Minister for East African Affairs to help handle the situation.
Today we are here on the National Consultative Forum for stakeholders, where we are gathering issues that we need to be tabled at the East African community. We have requested the Minister of East African Community Affairs to table this issue to the Minister in Tanzania, find out what exactly the problem is, because it is not a problem of quality. The maize is meeting the quality we have always been supplying to Tanzania. The traders at the borders have lost contracts. Those who had to supply to other traders on Tanzania side, other consumers, they've lost contracts. Businesses are suffering without any clear issue. And this contradicts with the ideals of the East African community, which call for free movement of goods across the borders.
The minister said that in the next council, they will be handling the issue of sanctions.
There is a provision on the trade regime. But what I found there, people are pussyfooting around sanctions. They are pussyfooting against telling people that you are doing something wrong. That's what I found there. But we are going to address it in the next council. This next council, we are going to talk about sanctions and what to do with people who are not non-compliant.
Issa Babu, Kevin Nandera for Smart 24 TV.
Kevin Nandera with the details of that one as well. Please do follow us up on Twitter at Smart24TV Official, and that is on Facebook rather, Smart24TV Official, for more details regarding business information and interviews as well, and as well as Twitter, Smart24TV as well, as we drive your business. Away from that, let's speak Refugee Relief Fund, as Japan has contributed $3.3 million to support refugees in Uganda. The government of Japan has contributed $3.3 million to support efforts towards the refugees and host communities, as well as the COVID-19 response in Uganda. Andrew Barije reports.
The The government of Japan in March this year committed approximately $3.3 million in support of refugees and host communities, and also protect refugee women from sexual and gender-based violence, with strong focus on mitigating the COVID-19 impacts over a period of 1 year. The support, however, has been channeled through United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the United Nations Entity for the Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women, and the World Food Programme. Hilary Onek, Minister for Relief Disaster Preparedness, applauded the government of Japan for this humanitarian move towards Uganda.
Allow me to first convey special thanks and appreciation to the government of Japan through the Ambassador of Japan to Uganda for the generous support extended to the government of Uganda to complement its efforts in implementation of COVID-19 prevention.
Uganda continues to be Africa's largest refugee hosting country, with over 1.6 million refugees from South Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Rwanda and Burundi, and many other countries.
The government of Uganda has put in place a conducive environment for refugees protection and management, an adapted global framework to steer and enhance this protection, including global impact for refugees under the New York Declaration for Refugees and Migrants that underscore the importance of
His Excellency Hidemoto Fukuzawa, the Japanese ambassador, unleashed the pillars guiding the Japanese foreign policy on its relations not only in Uganda but Africa at large.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I would like to introduce you to a concept which is one of the key pillars or policy organs that guides our foreign policy, not only to the Republic of Uganda, but also in the African continent. It is so-called TICAD, the Tokyo International Conference on Africa Development. The government of Japan has been leading this conference since 1993.
The $3.3 million fund has been allocated to the different UN agencies operating in Uganda, handling refugee affairs. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees received $1,225,500 million aimed at improving access to quality comprehensive primary health care. This will contribute to the universal health coverage for an estimated 303,000 individuals in Bidibidi refugee settlement in Yumbe district. UN Women has received $1,620 million to empower over 6,360 women, men and youth refugees and hosts in districts such as Adjumani, Yumbe and Chegegwa. And finally, the World Food Programme received $1,050,000 to support the nutrition of the vulnerable children and mothers in Karamoja and refugee program to address acute malnutrition. Bariji Andrew, Smart 24.
Thank you, Bariji Andrew. Now, do you wear perfume, and which type of perfume do you wear? Is it a cologne, is it a deodorant, or any type that you have? The next story is taking us to the perfume business, a business that is shaping up the fashion and design sector. There is always something extraordinary about fragrance and scent. A fragrance shares a little of our inner self with the world, and our perfume leaves a fast impression of anyone who comes to approach us. And we can definitely be striking with a wonderful cologne. And to think of it is definitely amazing. And in the hot weather, deodorant or perfume has become a necessity. Godfrey Chisache takes us through this side of business, which is the perfume business, as Hassan Ndugwa reports.
Godfrey Chisache, a perfume trader, says that there are various types of perfumes in Uganda that differ.
With different types. There are those of those called the designer oils, and then there are those of the gas. So those that are designer oils is our target, always the business, because it's what we are bringing to the society, what we've studied and brought to the society. Now the fumes themselves, those designer perfumes, we sell them in quantities of 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, depending on the quantity that one would want to take in. Yes. So, for those that understand them, they find it easier to purchase or to buy from us. But then there are those clients who come in and have to, first of all, understand which type of perfumes are you bringing to them. So it becomes a challenge because you have to let them know what exactly they are getting to buy. And in the long run, the good thing is that those people come back and buy actually those companies.
He continuously says that due to the pandemic of COVID-19, they use social media platforms to market their products because they are in a remote area.
New to the society because it's a bit remote, and yes, it's urban, but it's a bit more like it's a growing community. And most of the people are residents, but normally leave the place in the morning, go do some other work, and get back in the evening. So it's a bit residential and not so much busy. So in terms of the market, we find it hard to compare to that. But however, with time, people will understand the business and we hopefully buy from us. Then the other...
He therefore requests the government to extend loans to the small businesses such that they remain in the business.
Extending loans with small interest rates. Yeah, those who can, because we have the idea, but pursuing the idea, it's in the long term. And one way that is creating that long termness is because capital is low and we have to finance that business in that period. So if the government could extend those loans to us and then with limited interest, at least we are sure we can have something bigger than this.
Well, this next one is taking us to birthday celebrations. I do believe Ugandans on Twitter have more of information regarding this one as well, because it has been a trend over the last 2 weeks. Now let's talk the Lieutenant General MUHOOZI's sumptuous birthday celebrations that are going to happen this weekend on Saturday at the MK at 48, as traders have been denied business access. Over the coming weekend, Lieutenant General MUHOOZI Kainerugaba will turn 48, and the celebrations will be held at Lugogo Cricket Oval with a magnificent event where every Ugandan has been invited. It will attract numerous activities, but this is unlike the previous similar event where traders won't exercise their duties. There will be no room for traders selling any commodity. Rona Nahabwe takes us through.
The commander of Uganda People's Defence Lands Forces, Lieutenant General MUHOOZI Kainerugaba, who is also the first son, will celebrate his 40th birthday in a glamorous style. The event, which has been organized with a concert that is open to the public, has come up with serious measures which have restricted the traders from selling their goods at the function. According to the chairman organizing committee, Michael Toyota Kaguta, the function will attract many VIP guests who will be entertained by a number of local artists, including Jose Chameleon, Bebe Cool, Cindy, among others, together with the Rwandese artist Masamba Intole.
So we are, because where we are having our function, it's under management, sports management. They don't allow that. So for us, we shall have our own drinks that we shall serve for those who want to sell, maybe if they manage to get outside. But here, it's under management, they are the ones to decide.
Unlike the previous birthday celebrations that attract the public, like the one for Kabaka of Buganda, Ronald Mutebi, the business community have been granted access to sell their goods. However, for this case, the organizers are going to provide everything, food and drinks, to everyone who will attend.
January to February 2022 saw Cameroon host the African Cup of Nations, which was supposed to happen last year, but due to COVID, it was pushed on to this year. The eventual winners were Senegal, but news coming in from Cameroon is not that good, as 89 buses that were used for 2021 African Cup of Nations have gone missing in the West African country. It is time for Prime Sports. Barely 2 months after the end of the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon, 89 new buses used to chauffeur the participating national teams, delegation and other logistic teams have reportedly vanished. The organizing committee had reportedly purchased 90 buses to be used during the continental showpiece. However, only one of the buses has been seen. That is according to La Necrodad. which is a Cameroonian daily newspaper. The bus used by the host nation team, which is Cameroon, was the only vehicle seen as far as the details coming in from Cameroon, and it was retained to be used by the Indomitable Lions for their home games once they return to international football. Remember, the Indomitable Lions are also part of the teams that will be celebrating, or that will be representing Africa on the World Cup showpiece in Qatar. Now, this development comes after reports surfaced that the Cameroonian government was yet to pay some of the workers of the 2021 African Cup of Nations. The Teranga Lions of Senegal won the 33rd edition of the tournament after beating Egypt in a penalty shootout, and they eventually won their very first African Cup of Nations trophy. All right, now away from that, summing up discussions from Prime Sports, let's take a look at what is coming in from the Pearl of Africa Rally 2022, as the Federation of Motorsport has pocketed 70 million Ugandan shillings from KCB Bank. And the 2022 Shell V-Power Pearl of Africa Organizing Committee has received a major financial boost from KCB Bank, Uganda, to a tune of around 70 million Uganda shillings. The dummy check was officially handed over to the Federation of Motorsport Uganda officials, which was led by President Dipu Rupaleria at Handi Restaurant in Kampala City on Thursday. And Rupaleria expressed delight upon the return of KCB Bank to the sport after some time dating as far as the times when he was still a driver, as definitely preparing for the Pearl of Africa Rally 2022. Thank you very much for being part of us tonight. This is the Prime Edition. I'm Joram Paul Sonko. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Joram Paul Sonko. Well, you can as well add us up on Twitter, Smart24, Facebook, Smart24 TV Official, and Instagram, Smart24 TV. And our website is www.smart24.tv for more details regarding business. And of course, we are the driving force for your business. Any detail that you've missed here, you can definitely go into our YouTube channel and as well download as well for the details regarding business. And do remember to hit the subscription button to give us more views, shares, and your feedback, which is very, very vital. We've been coming to you live from Plot 42 Nile Avenue, opposite Garden City. Advertise with us. Thank you very much for all of you, from the entire production, newsroom, and the editorial room. Till tomorrow morning with live programming, and definitely with Smart Means Business. I'll be here in the morning, 7 a.m. till 10 with Rita Caballero to guide you through a new day. But stick around with Smart 24 as more business information is coming in with the Polycon, discussing politics and economics in the country, social, economical, and political matters with Dr. Joseph Tindiebwa. Have a good night, and it's a goodbye.